All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD 1000 Web Development Technologies course, I've been creating a series of video presentations that are based on the Mozilla Developer Network Learn Web Development series. We're in the client-side JavaScript frameworks and we're talking React. We've been creating this React to-do list, and so far we're able to go in and add a new task. The problem is they're not persisting, but we're not going to worry about that right now. So as you might have noticed, if you clicked on a checkbox, it checks and unchecks appropriately. As a feature of HTML, the browser knows how to remember which checkbox inputs are checked or unchecked without our help. This feature hides a problem, however. Toggling a checkbox doesn't change the state in our React application. This means that the browser and the app are now out of sync. So in other words, if I go in there and I change this, it's changed here on the screen, but it's not changed internally in the program. It says, before we fix the bug, let's observe it happening. We'll start by writing a toggle task completed function in our app component. This function will have an ID parameter, but we're not going to use it yet. For now, we'll just log the task in the array to the console. We're going to inspect what happens when we check or uncheck the browser. Add this just above your task list constant declaration. I just want to follow their lead, so I think we'll put it there. Next, we'll add toggle class completed to the props of each to-do. So we're adding this. I think we've got everything else in here already. Okay, let's take a quick look at that. Whoops, I don't want to do it like that. Do it like this. So that const task list, task map, to do, ID, name, completed key. So the only thing we have to add is that. All right. Next, go over to your to-do.js component. So let's bring that up. Okay. And add an onChange handler to your input element, which should use an anonymous function to call the toggle task completed with the parameter props ID. The input should now look like this. So let's do this. We'll bring this up here, come in here, and we'll find where that is, which is right here. Let's take this and put it over multiple lines so we can see what's changing here. So ID equals props ID, that's the same. Type equal checkbox, that's the same. Oops. Default checked equal props.completed, that's the same. So what's new is this, whoopsie, is that onChange. That now looks the way that it looks up here. All right, save everything and return to your browser. Let's do a save all. Yep, and I'm sure, hopefully, oh crud. I've got a bunch of other stuff open in here. So, all right, so that's been saved, good. All right, save everything and return to your browser. Notice our first task, eat, is checked. Yes, it is. It unchecks as expected. Your console, however, will log something like this. The checkbox unchecks the browser, but a console still says that it's been completed. So let's see if indeed that's the case. So we'll do this. We'll again open this up in the inspector. We're in the console. I don't know if this, let's take a clear. No. All right, that's okay. So let's uncheck this. And it says eat completed is still set to true. All right. And it still is, whether that's checked or unchecked. Not a good thing. So it says the checkbox unchecks the browser, but a console still tells us that eat is completed. We will fix that next. All right. So as you can see in here, they talk about synchronizing the browser with our data. It says let's visit our toggle class completed function in app.js. We want to change the completed property of only the task that was toggled and leave all others alone. To do this, we'll map over the task list and change the one we completed. So map means basically, again, we're iterating our way through the list. And if we find the one, then we want to change whatever its completed was. If it was true, we want to change it to false. If it was false, we want to change it to true. All right. So we got to come back. Let's grab this whole thing. And let's, in app.js, we need our toggle tasks completed. Which right now has only this. We're going to change it to this. All right. So as it says, if the task has the same ID as the edited task, it says here, use the spread operator to make a new object whose completed has been inverted. Again, as mentioned before, that means if it was true, make it false. If it was false, make it true. So here we define an updated task constant as it says. So let's give it a whirl here. So again, let's come in here and inspect. All right, and I'm going to click on the exit. And did we remove that? Let's see. Well, we weren't told to do that yet, so how's that? All right. Let's see if we can come in and delete a task. That's be the last part of this lesson. Deleting a task will follow a similar pattern to toggling its completed state. We need to define a function for updating our state, pass that function to do as a prop, and call it when the right event happens. It says we'll start by writing a delete task function in our app component. Like the toggle class completed, it will take an ID parameter that will log the ID to the console. Add the following below toggle task completed. Well, I think I goofed up here. So I think that, which goes with that, should be like this. We're going to find out in a minute. Next, add another callback prop to our array of to-do components. So it's this. Again, let's double check and make sure everything else is in there. Task ID, task name, task completed, task ID, toggle task completed, and now delete task. All right, in to-do.js, we want to call props.delete task when the delete button is pressed. Delete task needs to know the ID. That makes sense. And that shows two things. Number one, how each to-do has to have its own ID. And going along with that, number two, why we had to go and set it up so that each task did have its own ID. So we were removing the correct one. update the delete button inside of the to-do like so. Button danger. Here's the delete, looks like. Type equal button, class equal button danger. I want to make sure I'm removing the right one. All right, and it looks like it's this one here. Now when you click any of the delete buttons in the app, your browser should log the ID of the deleted task. So I don't think it's going to delete it yet, but I think it's going to be logging it. So let's look at that. Well, we got an error. In our app.js, updated tasks is not defined. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe that does have to be there. Like that. Let's see if that fixes it. Did not. All right. 32. This has got to be kind of stand on its own, I would think. So this function here, this one, I'm going to move all that, tab that over one, tab that over, so that's there, and then add this. Now I've got one too many curlies, so that should be like this. Now, this is where I think I'm getting the problem. And it probably should be like that, but I'm not positive. Again, I'm hoping that somewhere towards the end here, they're going to show us exactly how all of these are supposed to look. So let's see. All right, well, that looks better. All right, let's try sleep. Delete. And nothing happened. Well, the good news is we didn't get an error, so we've got rid of our error. Bad news is it's not doing a darn thing. All right, well, what does that mean? First of all right, I'm at 13 minutes, which is fine for time. Let's go back into here. Just take it from the top here. Add the following below toggle task completed. Add the following below toggle task completed. Here we'll start by writing a delete task function. I don't think I have that, but I'm not positive. So let's see. In your app component, I'm in the app component. Oh, there's the delete task. Add the following below the toggle task completed. All right, that's what I did. Good. All right, so that should be correct. Next, add another callback prop into our array of to-do components. We added this. In to-do.js, update the delete button as shown. I just copied that in, so that should be exactly the same thing. These two can be moved over. Now when you click on any of the delete buttons in the app, the console should log the ID of the related task. Well, let's see if that indeed is happening, or if I've got an error or something else. All right. So inspect, and let's see if I'm logging the ID. To do 0, that would be correct. To do 1, to do 2. And if we come in here and add, so buy groceries, and we click add, that does put it down here. We click here. Well, you'll notice that that's got a different ID. Interesting. All right, and they're all going to look like this, I think, eventually, because these are just some filler that we put in to start with. All right. So finally, deleting tasks from state and UI. Now that we know delete tasks is invoked correctly, we can call our set tasks hook in delete task to actually delete that task from the state as well as visually from the UI. Now it's really important that you do understand here that what they're talking about is deleting it in two places. Number one is visually what you see here. So when we click delete, we want that one to be deleted. That's one thing. That's the visual part, the UI part. But we also want to make sure internally where we're storing this that it gets removed as well. All right. Since setTask expects an array as an argument, we should provide it a new array that copies the existing tasks, excluding the one whose one you want to delete. This is a perfect opportunity to use array.prototype.filter. We can test each task and exclude a task from the new array if it's the one that we want to indeed delete. Update the delete task function in your file as follows. So this is in app.js. So right now, delete task is only logging the ID. What we want to do is we want to change that. And we want, again, we're filtering, we're telling it to create a new thing called remaining tasks, and we want everything in there except for the one that we just said we wanted to delete. Then we call set tasks to actually set it for us. So let's see if now we can actually go in and physically remove something. All right, it says that's enough for one article. Here we've given you the lowdown on how React deals with events and handles states, and implemented functionality to add tasks, delete tasks, and toggle them as completed. We're nearly there. In the next article, we'll implement the functionality to edit existing tasks and filter the list of tasks between all completed and incomplete. We'll look at conditional UI rendering along the way. So that's going to be the next one. But before we do that, let's come here and let's see if we can delete this. And it's gone. And notice our one task even is there. Okay? And, sleep. And we can add ones back in. Good. We're right where I believe we should be right now.